Okay, let's now begin with the task 3, the database part. So this is the syllabus in which data manipulation is covered. So over here, you can use any database manipulation software that can be used to import files, create relationships, and to create reports. So here I would be using MS Access. So first I'll go into the folder and I would create my file or my database file over here itself. So if you go to start and you start your database, what happens is most of the time students forget where they have saved the file, or they don't pay attention to where the file is getting saved. So in this way, if you create your file directly into your folder, you know that it is here. In the event you need to shift computers, your file goes with you. So if any name has been given to you, you can rename. In this paper, they have not asked you to rename. So let's open this file and let's begin the task that is given to us. So we need to import this particular file. It's given to us as a CSV file, which means it's a text file, a comma separated file. So it's a generic file that can be used to import data into any particular software. It's not software specific. Now they've given us field names, they've given us the data types, and they've given us the format. So we're going to use this data in order to import our files and to set the data according to what they have asked us. So let's begin. Let's go into external data and let's go into new data source, and from file, it's a text file. Begin now to import the file by browsing to your particular location and selecting your file. Once you have selected your file, let's follow the wizard now. So it's going to be delimited, and over here it's either going to be one of these. So in this particular file, it is tab separated. So you need to check whether it's tab separated or comma separated, and we will select the first row contains field names. So the first row in our file is having field names. That's the reason why we have selected this. So it should be, all your data should be looking at like it is in specific columns. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to check whether the data types and the field names are as per the data that they have given to us. So we have all these field names over here. So a quick method would be to click into advanced and to quickly check all the field names over here. So last name, first name, it needs to be exactly the same. Okay, so all the field names are the same. Let's take a look at the data types now. So text, in Access it's called as short text or long text. So here you can see it's the same. And age is number, which is an integer, which is correct. And integer means without any decimal places. So here I have kilometers hour as a number, but it's 2 decimal places. So it's not an integer. I need to modify this now and make it to double. Double means it's a data type with decimal places. So if I keep it as an integer, it will not accept the decimal places. Okay, the rest 3 are numbers and they are integers. So I'm going to leave it as is. And cat code is text and distance is again an integer. So I'm done with this. Now if you have any date time fields, in this particular example we do not have any date and time fields, but if you do have any such date fields, you need to ensure that the date is going to be in the format of DMY. So most of the time you need to check whether it is in the DMY. Most of the time the papers are set to day, month, year format. So if you have not changed your regional settings in your computer to English United Kingdom and keyboard United States, then you may have a different date order. For example, it might be MDY or some other date format. So it will throw an error if there is a date field over here. So this is also to be checked. Okay, here we do not have any date field, so we do not need to take a look at that. Anyways, the format is correct. So once we're done with this, let's move on to the next part. Okay, choose my own primary key, because they have given us the primary key. The primary key is given to us as race number. So I'm going to select the race number as the primary key. Now what is a primary key? A primary key is a field in my table that is going to be used to uniquely identify each and every single record in my table. So basically this particular field is not going to have any values that are going to be duplicate. Okay, so no two values are going to be the same. So at your IGCSE level, they will give you the primary key field. In case they do not give it to you, how do you identify a primary key? By looking at a field which is unique. So most of the time ID numbers like student ID or membership ID, book ID can be used to create a primary key because they are unique identifiers. So our primary key has been set. Now we're going to import to, this is the name of the table, so you can leave the name of the table as such, or for a more readability or a more conventional method, you're going to change it to table and the name of the table and finish it off. If there are any import errors, it will appear over here. For example, I did not change the km hour to double. It is still kept as an integer. I will get the data as an error over here. So you will see two tables over here. Okay, so once this is done, I'm going to go into my design view, and now I'm going to set the details that they have mentioned over here. So here they have said that km hour is 2 decimal places. So I'm going to go to the km hour and I'm going to change my decimal places to 2. Okay, now that the first table is imported, let's move on and import the second table. So they have asked us to import this particular table and all the fields set with appropriate data types. And they have given us the primary key also. So let's go ahead and import this particular table. So close this table after saving it and go ahead again to your external data, new data source, and select my text file and go ahead and import them. Okay, again the same steps. So first row contains field names. Move on to the next. Let's take a look at the different fields. So club position is integer, so the data you can see it is an integer. So this is a text. We have code as a text, district and county, and let's take a look at the rest of the fields. Okay, we can also move into advanced and take a look. So this is clear, and let's finish importing this. They've given us club code as the primary key. So I'm going to rename this with table club for a better naming convention. Okay, so this is also done. There are no errors in this, so this is also done, and there is no other changes that is required in my design view. So I'm going to move on to the next part. They're asking me to import a third table over here again and set all appropriate data types, and they have given the primary code also, primary key also as group code. So let's continue to import this file. Okay, again go back to the location and pick out your same steps we will follow over here, and let's cross check on the data types. So we have group code, we have year band, category, and this is all text files itself, text. And we are going to move to our primary code, which is group code, and complete our table creation. So we have 3 tables that have been imported over here. We now need to move on to the next part, and that is to select the correct evidence that needs to be specified. So they have asked us to place in our evidence document screenshots showing the primary keys, the field names, and the data types that are used in all of our 3 tables. So we need to take screenshots of all of the 3 tables. So let's start by taking the screenshot. So let's open the design view of each of them and use our snipping tool and snip out the name of the table, the name of all the fields, and the databases, data types. This is enough. And let's move into our evidence document and paste it over here. So I'll just reduce the size of the screenshot. Okay, now we need to paste 2 more tables over here. So let's close this and move on to our second table and take again the screenshot. I'm going to use snipping tool. So name of the table, the primary key, the field name, and the data types. This is all to be shown. So if you take a look, this part, the name of the table, the name of the primary key, all the field names and the data types should be shown clearly. So if you take a screenshot without the table name or without showing the primary key, you do tend to lose marks for it. So once again, let me just take the screenshot. So let me just take the screenshot. I'm going to use my snipping tool and take the second screenshot, and let's paste this into our evidence document and reduce the screenshot size. And one more screenshot, and this is the third table. So let's move to the third table, close this table, design view, and let's take a screenshot of this. Sometimes it's ideal to also show the format that you have done. So I'm going to for this particular table, since we had done a format, I'm just going to take one of these formats. It's not necessary to show the if you've set, let's say, 2 formats for a date and time, or for a decimal place, or you've set a size for a text. It's not necessary to show all of them. Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot, and this time I'm going to show the decimal places also, and the format also. This can be understood by the examiner from the report, so it's not required for you to set it for each and every of the screenshots that you do. Okay, so this is the 3 tables that I have created, and this is my screenshots. Okay, so let's now move on to the next part of our database. So I need to create relationships as links between club code and club code, group code and cat code. So basically a relationship between 2 tables is created when you want to link the data in a particular table with the data in another particular table. So we use the primary codes for that, and in one of the tables you will also have the primary key coming in as a foreign key. So there are different types of relationships. Most commonly what is dealt with the IGCSE is your 1:1 relationships and your 1:many relationship. So in your 1:1 you will be linking, or one record in a particular table will have only one more matching record in another table. Most of the time it's the primary codes that are used to link between these 2 tables. 1:many is when one record in one table can correspond to many records in another, matching records in another table. So the primary key of one table will appear many times as a foreign key in another particular table. So they've given us the field names. So how do we go ahead and set the relationship? So let's do that. So I've come to my database tools, click on relationships and select my 3 tables and add them onto my relationship table. And now let's just drag and drop them over here. So I'm just going to bring this here. Okay, so the first relationship they've told us is between club code and club code in the score table. So we have got club table and score table. So you have club code in this in the club table and club code in my score table. So I'm going to just drag and drop this on top of this particular field. So club code and club code from this is my primary key, which is linking to the club code, which is a foreign key in my score table. And I'm going to create this. Okay, so I can enforce referential integrity. So I'm going to create this. So you can see that the relationship has been set between these 2. Next one, group code and the cat field. So group table, group code, and cat code in the score table. So I have a group code, and this data is going to be appearing as the same data is going to be appearing in this particular field called as my cat code. So again, this is a 1:many relationship, and I'm going to create this. Okay, so 2 relationships have been created, and let's see what is the evidence. They're asking us to place screenshots showing the type of relationships between the 3 tables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this particular line. So I need to be able to see the name of both the fields and the name of the relationship, and it should not be create, it should have already been created. So I'm going to put this a little down, and then I will use my snipping tool to snip out the relationships. So the most ideal snip would be like this. So I have the name of my 2 tables, all the fields are clearly seen, the relationships between the relationship type and the 2 fields which are used to relate to each other is also being seen. So let's go ahead and paste this in our evidence document and reduce the size, and let's create one more relationship over here. So let's move on, let's click OK and go ahead to the second one. So we need to show both the relationships. So again, click on the relation on the linking line between them, get the relationship table, and then take the screenshot. And this is a more ideal screenshot. Okay, so you can clearly see the name of the relationship, the 2 tables, and the details over here. So I'm just going to paste that over here. You can also paste it next to each other side by side. Okay, so I have 2 relationships that are created over here. I can see both the tables clearly and the names of the fields and the relationship between the 2 fields over here quite clearly. Once you're done with your relationships and you have saved the file, let's move on to the next step. So we need to do a data entry over here. It's a new record. They've not asked us to use a form over here, so we're going to go directly into the table and enter the data. When you do a data entry, just make sure that the data entry is exactly how they have asked you. Leave the capital letters and all the data as they have specified. So let's move to the table. This is in my score table. So I have my score table opened over here. Let's move on to a new record and go ahead and start entering the data that they have mentioned. So exactly the same data, start entering it over here in the required fields. Okay, so the data entry is done. So ensure that you save your data, and then let's move on to the next step. So check the data for your data entry. Any data entry errors are there, go ahead and cross check again.